Let me ask you, you are an Iranian negotiator. You get a written assurance by the United States government that not they're not going to launch another war against you or against the axis of resistance for that matter. Can you trust them?
No way you trust them. No way. It's
No way.
impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody seems to care about whatever document that the Trump administration would sign at the end of this, sort of conflict. But they know that this war going to continue, in my opinion, and it's some way. You may mention that Donald Trump himself said that the Operation Epic Fury is over, but
Mhm.
in what sense is that over?
In
I
what
don't-
sense?
Yeah. It doesn't mean anything, in my opinion, because the war, I don't see the United States lifting the sanctions. I literally don't see that happening. They may, release some frozen assets, Iranian assets. That could happen, but that doesn't change the game. That doesn't change the face of the conflict. Just remember, Pepe, before the United States announcing 2 weeks of ceasefire, they did an operation in the southern part of Isfahan. They wanted to exhaust each and every opportunity they have to do something against Iran. Then right before this new phase of the conflict, of the war, in my opinion, is that Donald Trump announced 2 days ago, not last night, the night before, he said that we are doing something like Operation Freedom. Let's go and open up the Strait of Hormuz. Not only the Operation Freedom, together with the sanctions they tried to impose on Chinese refineries. They said that if they want to work with Iranians, we're gonna sanction. They're gonna be under sanctions, Chinese American sanctions. Then what has happened? What was the response from China? China said, you're going to sanction them? We're going to support them. You can work with Iran and we're going to support you against the United States. This is the game. They're trying to do their best to put pressure on Iran, but it doesn't seem that they're getting to the point to understand that Iran is totally prepared, in my opinion, for a major war. As we talk today, they're preparing for a major war with the United States, the third round of the war. And this is the problem. You don't see any sort of, consistency in the Trump administration. That's why it's so difficult to deal with this sort of situation they're dealing with right now, Iranians I'm talking about. And I don't see this war coming to an end. I don't see Donald Trump being able to do something. This one-page memorandum, a memo they're talking about, what does it mean? This is just simply nothing. It could be the framework, as you mentioned, but who's going to negotiate on this framework? I don't see the capabilities in the Trump administration. I don't see anybody serious in negotiation. And that's the problem. That's a huge sort of, difficulties that not only Iran, I would say Russia is experiencing with the Trump administration. And how do you see, Pepe, when it comes to China? China seems to me that since the war in Ukraine started, they're getting closer to Russia and Iran. They're sort of, you remember during the first year of the war in Ukraine, many people were arguing that China would sell Russia for Taiwan, and they're gonna make some sort of deal with the United States on Taiwan. That didn't happen. And right now, there may be somehow some people are arguing the same thing, that Donald Trump going to go to China, is going to make a deal on Taiwan, and China would cooperate with the United States against Iran. What is your understanding of that?
No, absolutely no. There won't be any deals involving Taiwan or otherwise. Basically, once again, as we know, he has less than 0 cards in his hand. For the Chinese, this is protocol. The first summit had to be postponed. If they could, they would postpone this one because there's nothing substantive to talk about. So, okay, it's there. It's in the protocol. Okay, we do it and we get rid of it because they know there won't be any breakthrough. And of course, on top of it, they cannot trust anything coming from Trump. And third, they know that the overall strategy and this goes way beyond Trump, this is in the national security strategy, is the forever war against China by all means necessary. Encirclement, containment, harassment, you name it. And this is not going to change. So they're going to keep following everything that they deliberated for the 5-year plan. They are in the technological race. They are on full speed ahead. In terms of sanctions, they don't care about sanctions anymore, which was the case of this response when the Americans were targeting their oil refineries. Basically, the Chinese said, under Chinese law, that's it. These companies have to follow Chinese law, and what you're doing is illegal. So bye-bye. And from now on, this is going to be on other sectors of the economy. So the Chinese are not playing defense anymore. They are reacting immediately afterwards in an offensive manner. So that changes completely. So that these what the Americans had so far, these levers of pressure, like it started last year when in April last year, when there was that volley of sanctions against the Chinese, you could see that the Chinese response already a year ago was very different. They resisted from the start. And now they are not only resisting, but there are counterpunches, which is the case with the oil refineries. So that's it. So what sort of leverage Trump has to pressure China? Not much. And now, if he is serious about finding, we don't know if he's serious or not. He doesn't know what he wants with the whole Iranian horrible adventure. Who's paying the price for all that? The global economy, especially very fragile nations, which they're probably going to be facing famine in a few months, certainly in the second semester. So this means there's got to be some sort of resolution in the next few weeks. Otherwise, the global economy, the spiral downwards of the global economy is going to be even more horrible than what is being predicted at the moment. And of course, his domestic situation is catastrophic. It's the only thing he thinks about. He is condemned to be a lame duck president, and anything can happen. When you become a lame duck president, you're easy prey for everything. It could be anything, destitution, impeachment, send him to jail, whatever. Everything will be open. And not only him, but his cronies as well. Because this is a mafioso system with lots of grifters profiting from it, starting with his son-in-law, which is probably the grifter in chief. And guess what, Nima? He himself, Kushner himself, appointed the new negotiator of the Trump team. And guess what? The guy's an IDF, a Zionist asset. He's going to, in theory, be an advisor to Witkoff. It's a joke.
Getting worse.
It's a joke. How can you possibly take these people seriously?
Yeah.
And the Iranians said over and over again, we're not going to the same table with these two idiots. That's it. The only one that they would possibly talk to is Vance. And Vance, for the moment, is out of the picture. Maybe he'll come back later. But that's it. There's nobody to negotiate with. And, of course, theoretically, the United States has a Secretary of State, which, by the way, today was saying something astonishing. He said that basically we're trying to get the situation, including the Strait of Hormuz, back to where it was. He actually said that. What is this guy has an IQ of what? 10? 12? Maybe? He is confessing a strategic defeat in front of the whole planet, and he still doesn't understand that. Unbelievable. You provoked this whole thing. Go back to where it was. Obviously, if you haven't done this war, spent zillions of dollars, destroyed a great deal of the Iranian infrastructure, now destroying the infrastructure of the global economy, none of that would have happened. So it's your fault. So it's going to be very hard, Nima. You're right. It's going to be practically impossible. Who are the Iranians negotiating with in the next round, if there is a next round? And on top of it, they're going to have this backup, this diplomatic backup of both Russia and China. The Russians are now deeply implicated in the whole thing. And if Trump really wants to find an off-ramp for him, he's going to have to listen to the Russians. And the Russians can force Trump to back off in many aspects. But that's it. Now, Iran is far from being alone. Iran is supported by two superpowers. That's a completely different ballgame. And the Trump administration is supported by virtually nobody, even the vassals. Europe doesn't exist. Political suicide. And obviously the Persian Gulf, the only ones are the UAE. And that's why the UAE question from now on is going to be the burning question in the Persian Gulf. We know that the Persian Gulf is, the GCC is already split. We know that Saudi Arabia is playing a very clever game of Saudi Arabia. Theoretically, is part of trying to find a solution. Today, Arakshi called the Saudi Arabia foreign minister. So they're talking. Do they talk to the UAE foreign minister? No, because they are at war against Iran. So the UAE is the burning question. The Arab Israel in the UAE, if they don't get their act together, they can be smashed in the near future and destroyed easily. But that's very, very dangerous. Across the waters from the Persian Gulf, the Iranians look over there and say, we have to take care of these people. Very, very dangerous. And it's a mafia state as well. That's why they get along with Trump so well. That's why MBZ gets along with Trump so well, because it's a mini monarchy mafia setup.
And the day, Pepe, I think the day that the United Arab Emirates decides to do something against Iran, that would be the end of the United Arab Emirates, and nobody would care about them.
And nobody would. Nobody, even the Arabs won't care about it. Not to mention the rest of the global South.
Because they're we have Israeli forces in United Arab Emirates, we have American forces. They're doing a lot in this country, and that they don't understand. They're living in a house of glass, and it's so much fragile, the situation they're in. They don't understand that.
They don't understand it. They definitely don't understand it, and they are arrogant. Very unilateral, because, as you know, there's only one deciding individual. That's MBZ and nobody else. It's a one-man rule for all practical purposes. And, of course, the family around. It's a hardcore dictatorship, a monarchic dictatorship, based on slave labor on top of it, selling a fiction to the whole planet, and obviously people gullible enough, they bought into the Dubai dream, which from the beginning was an enormous fiction. The Dubai business model is already collapsed. So what they have left is Abu Dhabi and selling oil, which they were dreaming of selling 5 million barrels a day, using especially Fujairah, right? But if there is a resumption of the war, which is still quite possible. Let's say from 1 to 10, the possibility is probably around 9.
Exactly.
Yeah, you would say that, right? Around 9.
Yeah.
So there may be a resumption of the war, perhaps not now, but eventually, yes. And if Iran establishes, like they established in this past war, until the ceasefire at least, that the UAE is part of it, that's it. It's bye-bye UAE.
Pepe, the spokesman of Iranian Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, he said that what Axios reported in terms of the tax being agreed between Iran and the United States is the wish list, not a reality.
It's a wish list. Yeah. Well, yes, it is a wish list from the American point of view, certainly. From the Iranian point of view, everybody knows the main Iranian points. And also, most people know that the Americans will refute them. They will never accept them.
Yeah.
So once again, probably there's only one person in the outer galaxies who could bridge the gap. Vladimir Putin. There's nobody else. It's not going to be Xi Jinping. The Chinese will never get their hands dirty with this thing. First of all, because they would refuse to discuss Iran with Trump. The Russians is different. Because Putin has this, I would say, the global transit apart from Europe. Putin can talk to anybody all over the planet, apart from the Europeans. And is influential. And of course, Trump listens to him, is one of the very few. So apart from that, there's no possible solution for this creeping dementia. And it's a president on the way to dementia, surrounded by absolute idiots who not only don't understand Iran, they don't understand West Asia, they don't understand Eurasia, they don't understand the multipolar world. And they don't understand how fragile the superpower is. There's this classic imperial mix of arrogance and ignorance. And in their case now is, when you look at the Secretary of Forever Wars, it's a mix of nastiness and stupidity. And none of us could ever imagine that nastiness would be so stupid and stupidity will be so nasty. Just look at the Secretary of Forever Wars. He's the personal incarnation of this syndrome.
Yeah. Here is what was reported.
Yeah. So there's going to be the war will be back, Nima. What is your think, after Trump, Xi Jinping?
I would say if Donald Trump, many people in Iran are talking about it's going to happen before Donald Trump going there. And their argument is that
this weekend then.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're thinking that this weekend is the initiation of the war. I don't know if that would happen. Many people are somehow expecting that happening.
There's no meeting next week. The Chinese are going to cancel it, obviously.
Yeah. If they started, that would be the cancellation somehow of the meeting. And I think today, as we talk, Arakchi is talking with China because nobody believes the Trump administration anymore. And they can, today they say something, and the moment, in 2 hours, in 2 minutes, they're going to change the whole game.
Because they have no strategy, Nima, as we all know. They improvise, and then they improvise on the previous improvisation, and then they even forget what they improvised. There's zero strategy on everything. The only thing that probably registers in Trump's mind that he needs an off-ramp. He's in the middle of a monster jam, and he cannot find a way out.
He desperately needs that, but we know that Iran is not going to give it to him. But Iran has no interest to in helping Donald Trump.
On the contrary.
Exactly. They don't want to help him. This is the problem. And here is what came out, Pepe. Caitlin Dornsbus, a New York Post reported. She reported that she had she says that I have now confirmed this myself through a Pakistani source familiar with the mediation efforts. My source said there are multiple versions of the document that Axis was
There are
talking about.
multiple versions
Multiple.
then.
Yeah. And that the details are still being worked out on which variant will be acceptable to both the United States and Iran. It seems that there is no agreement, on this document. That's why, it's so amazing. Before agreeing on anything, Donald Trump announcing it. Go ahead.
Exactly. So there are different MOUs, and of course, there's a back and forth. There's no question about that. To get to a final MOU in itself is going to be immense, assuming we get there, because the positions are completely apart in every sense, including the order of the procedure, the procedural order, and the key focus, the sequential key focus. For instance, it's going to be very hard to convince Trump that the first thing to be discussed is the end of the war and other wars. First of all, because he cannot commit to that, and he will not commit to that. And even if he does, he can tear it up like he did with the JCPOA. Once again, there's no trust. And even if you have, for instance, the Pakistanis are not strong mediators enough to impose anything. The Omanis, same thing. The only ones who will be able to impose something and impose some order in the discussions will be the Russians. Do the Russians want to do this? No. They have their horrible fish to fry, including the possibility of those lunatic terrorists interfering with the May 9 parade on Saturday. And this is a serious threat. But at least the Minister of Defense already said, if you do this, okay, we level Kiev. Pay attention. We level Kiev. I'm not sure it's those people in Kiev registered that yet. And the Russians are losing their patience. And of course, inside Russia, it's something that I'm dying to get the inside view when I get there later this month. People are losing their patience with the whole thing as well. Especially now that you have infrastructure being attacked nearly every day, the oil installations, oil refineries, and all that. People are starting to get really, really pissed in Russia. So there is pressure now a little bit everywhere. Okay, let's solve this problem once and for all. So this is Russia's priority. They don't need to become moderators in somebody else's war. They have their own war to solve first, right?
Pepe, I'm not that much familiar with the mindset of the Chinese government, but if I were to mention one single outcome of these two conflicts in Ukraine and in the Middle East for the Chinese position would be, if the empire attacks you, you don't back down, you fight back.
Exactly.
And does that mean that the China would not give some sort of, I would say some sort of off-ramp to the United States, or helping the United States with the case of Iran and Russia, or instead of, cooperating with the United States, fighting back with the case of Taiwan? Because it doesn't mean it's not all about Taiwan. It's about how they can put pressure on China in the Strait of Malacca, for example.
Exactly. It's Malacca. You're right. This was the theme of one of my columns last week. And Malacca is inevitable, sooner or later. Hormuz was a test. They lost. So they're going to get even angrier and now driven to, okay, we couldn't do it in Hormuz, but we're going to do it in Malacca. And that's why that military cooperation agreement signed between Jakarta and Washington is so dangerous. This might be the first, the first plank of the strategy. We get that, and then we force the Indonesians to have overflight rights for American military planes. Then we try to set up a base somewhere. There you go. It's inevitable. So the Indonesians already made a big mistake. And so far, I have not seen. There's a lot of criticism in Indonesia about it, including from their own Ministry of Foreign Affairs, by the way. But don't forget, the head of the government is a military man. Very close to Suharto in the past. When Suharto was deposed, he wanted to run for president, thinking that he would be elected. He was not. He was biding his time all the time. And now that he is a president, don't forget, these are old military reflexes. And they were very, very close with the Americans all the time. So Prabowo, this veneer that he has of a progressive guy and all that, that's not a real story. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. So Malacca is inevitable, Nima. Inevitable. But the thing is, now that they are very, very angry because they lost Hormuz. And Hormuz was the preamble to get to Malacca. Now they're going to have to start from scratch. Yeah. But it's the same thing because the war is fundamentally against China. The Chinese, everybody in China knows that, even people who don't follow politics. So the position of the Chinese government is very complex in a sense that they want the Strait of Hormuz to be fully open, because after all, everything that they need goes through Hormuz. This is one of the things that Wang Yi told Arakshi today. But at the same time, he was talking about the sovereignty and the rights of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This means the Chinese understand if there is a toll booth and it would involve many of their own tankers, or they have an arrangement their tankers go for free. So they are not as touched as other nations. For instance, the Japanese and the South Koreans, they're going to have to pay the toll. The Chinese, not necessarily. Of course, this depends. This interferes with the other Chinese suppliers, because China buys oil from everybody in the Gulf. So the Chinese would want these tankers to go through as well. And then it starts to become complicated, because they have to tell the Iranians, look, maybe we can find an arrangement for all of our tankers coming from the Persian Gulf. But they understand perfectly the question of sovereignty, independence, and the fact that the Iranians are establishing a new management system in the Strait of Hormuz. The Chinese understand that very, very well. After all, the war is against them. Yeah. And they understood that the American blockade. The American blockade was also against them. Yeah. And it's still there. So, but the Chinese are masters at navigating all that silently, right? But the fact that they are coming out openly and saying that everything directly linked to this war is illegitimate, this means completely illegal, that's enormous. This means that anything the Americans are doing is illegal, or will do later is illegal, because the original premise was and is illegal. So it would be fantastic. Obviously, we won't have this scene. Can you imagine, Nima, Xi Jinping telling this to Trump in his face to face? And obviously, Xi Jinping is going to say that with, sipping a little bit of tea, with a smirk here, almost a smile, probably using a metaphor from from the Tang Dynasty. But I'm sure he's going to say it.
Yeah.
And obviously, Trump won't know how to answer something like this, especially because the whole thing is his fault.